After our reunion, my account was empty. I stared at my phone screen, fingers trembling, watching that zero balance mock me. 3 years of savings, gone, just gone. My heart hammered against my ribs as I refreshed the banking app again. And again, the number didn't change. 47,028. That's what should have been there. Instead, nothing but a digital void where my future used to live. How does someone you trust, someone you called family, look you in the eye, smile, hug you at a reunion, and know they've already destroyed you? If you've ever felt that gut-wrenching moment when trust shatters into 1,000 pieces, hit that like button and subscribe, because what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about the people I loved. Drop a comment if you've ever been betrayed by family. I need to know I'm not alone in this nightmare. Let me take you back to where this all started. 3 days before that reunion, 3 days before my entire world collapsed, I was standing in my small apartment kitchen, meal prepping for the week ahead, when my phone buzzed. It was a group text from my sister, Monica. Family reunion this Saturday. Mom and Dad's house. 2 p.m. Everyone must come. No excuses. I smiled, wiping my hands on a dish towel. It had been almost 6 months since we'd all been together. Life gets busy, you know. I worked as a medical billing specialist at a clinic downtown. Not glamorous, but steady, reliable. I'd been saving aggressively for 2 things: a down payment on a small house and eventually going back to school for my nursing degree. Monica was my older sister by 4 years. Growing up, we'd been close, sharing clothes, secrets, dreams. She'd married her high school sweetheart Derek when she was 23. I was her maid of honor. I remember crying happy tears that day, watching her walk down the aisle in that gorgeous lace dress. Derek seemed perfect for her. Charming, attentive, always knew what to say. He worked in sales, something with medical equipment, I think. He had that smooth-talking energy that made you feel like you were the most important person in the room when he spoke to you. But something had shifted over the years. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Monica had become different, more withdrawn, less of the vibrant, laughing girl I grew up with. When I'd ask her about it, she'd wave it off. Just tired, she'd say. Marriage is work, you know. I didn't know. I was 28 and perpetually single. Not by choice, exactly. More like, I'd watched enough relationships around me crumble to be cautious. I wanted to be financially stable first, independent. I never wanted to depend on anyone the way I'd seen some women depend on their partners, only to be left with nothing. That's why I'd been so careful with my money. Every paycheck, I'd transfer a portion to my savings account. I lived modestly. A 1-bedroom apartment, used car, home-cooked meals. No fancy vacations or designer bags. Just steady, disciplined saving. My parents were proud of me for it. Dad would always pat my shoulder and say, "That's my smart girl. You're doing it right." Mom would nod approvingly, though sometimes I'd catch her looking at Monica with this worried expression she thought no one noticed. I texted back to the group. Wouldn't miss it. What should I bring? Monica responded immediately. Just yourself. We have everything covered. Derek's grilling. Can't wait to see everyone. That Saturday, I woke up early, showered, and picked out a casual yellow sundress. The weather was beautiful. Late spring, with that perfect warmth that makes you grateful to be alive. I stopped at a bakery and grabbed a lemon pound cake because I couldn't show up empty-handed. Group text instructions be damned. The drive to my parents' house took 40 minutes. They lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood with tree-lined streets and houses with actual yards. It was where Monica and I had grown up, where we'd learned to ride bikes and had summer barbecues just like this one. When I pulled up, I saw Derek's truck already in the driveway alongside Monica's SUV. My younger brother Ryan's beat-up sedan was there too. He was 25, still figuring out his life, working at a tech startup that may or may not have been going anywhere. I grabbed the cake and my purse, locked my car, and headed to the backyard where I could already hear voices and laughter. Amber! Mom spotted me first, rushing over with her arms wide open. She squeezed me tight, and I breathed in her familiar perfume. something floral she'd worn for as long as I could remember. "Hi, Mom," I said, squeezing back. "You look great." "Oh, stop." She waved dismissively, but she was beaming. She'd gotten her hair cut shorter, and it suited her. "You brought cake! Amber, I told you not to bring anything." I know. I couldn't help it. Dad emerged from the patio, beer in hand, and pulled me into a one-armed hug. "There's my girl. How's work?" Same old, I said. "Busy, but good." Ryan was lounging in a chair by the pool, scrolling on his phone. He glanced up and nodded. "Hey, Amber." "Hey, Rye." I ruffled his hair as I passed, and he swatted my hand away with a grin. And then I saw them, Monica and Derek. They were standing by the grill, his arm around her waist. She was laughing at something he'd said, her head tilted back, looking more relaxed than I'd seen her in months. She wore a white sundress with red flowers, her dark hair pulled into a high ponytail. "Amber!" Monica broke away from Derek and rushed over to hug me. "You made it!" "Of course I did." I hugged her back, noting how thin she felt. Had she lost weight? "You okay?" "I'm great," she said quickly. Too quickly. "Really great. Come on, Derek just put the burgers on." Derek turned and flashed me that trademark smile. "Hey, Amber. Good to see you." "You too, Derek." I smiled back, but something in my chest tightened. I couldn't explain it, just a feeling. We all settled into the afternoon, eating, talking, laughing. Dad told his terrible dad jokes. Mom fussed over everyone's plates. Ryan complained about his boss. Monica and Derek seemed affectionate, holding hands, whispering to each other. Everything seemed normal, perfect even. But I should have known better. I should have trusted that nagging feeling in my gut. It was during dessert, my lemon pound cake, which everyone raved about, that Monica brought it up. "So, Amber," she said, licking frosting off her fork. "You're still saving for that house, right?" "Yeah," I said, nodding. "Getting close to my goal, actually. Hoping to start looking at places by the end of the year." "That's amazing," Monica said, and her voice sounded genuine. "Proud even. You're so disciplined." "I wish I had your willpower." Derek chuckled beside her. "She's always been the responsible one." Something about the way he said it made my skin prickle. Like there was a joke I wasn't in on? "Well, someone has to be," I said lightly, trying to shake off the weird vibe. "How much have you saved?" Ryan asked through a mouthful of cake. "Ryan, that's rude," Mom chided. "It's okay," I said. "I don't mind." A little over 47,000. I saw it then. Just for a split second, Derek and Monica exchanged a look. It was fast, so fast I almost missed it. But it was there. A flicker of something. Communication without words. My stomach twisted. "Wow," Monica said softly. That's really impressive, Amber." "Thanks." I forced a smile, suddenly feeling exposed, vulnerable. Why had I told them? Why had I given them that number? The conversation moved on. Dad started talking about a fishing trip he wanted to plan. Mom asked about Ryan's dating life, which made him groan dramatically. But I couldn't shake that look I'd seen pass between Monica and Derek. I told myself I was being paranoid. They were family, my sister. My brother-in-law, they would never. But that little voice in the back of my mind whispered, would they? The reunion wound down around 6. I helped Mom clean up while the guys lounged around watching a baseball game on TV. Monica was in the bathroom. "It was so good to have everyone together," Mom said, washing a serving dish. "We need to do this more often." "We really do," I agreed, drying a plate. "How are you, sweetheart?" "Really?" I looked at her, surprised by the question. "I'm good, Mom. Why? You just seem, I don't know, tense." "I'm fine," I assured her. "Just tired from work, I think." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, but you can always talk to me, right? About anything?" "I know." She squeezed my shoulder, and I felt that familiar warmth of maternal love. Whatever weird vibes I'd picked up earlier were probably all in my head. When I left, Monica and Derek walked me to my car. Derek's arm was around Monica's shoulders, and she leaned into him. Thanks for coming, Monica said, hugging me goodbye. I love you. Love you too, I said, squeezing her tight. Derek pulled me into a hug next. Always good to see you, Amber. Take care of yourself. You too, I said, stepping back. As I drove away, I glanced in my rearview mirror. They were still standing there watching me leave. Derek leaned down and whispered something in Monica's ear. She nodded. That knot in my stomach tightened. Sunday morning I slept in, a rare luxury. When I finally dragged myself out of bed around 10, I made coffee and settled on my couch with my laptop to do some mindless browsing. I thought about looking at house listings. Maybe get a sense of what was out there in my price range. I logged into my bank account, and that's when my entire world stopped. Checking account. My 243 savings account. 0.0. My coffee mug slipped from my hand, hitting the hardwood floor with a crash. Hot liquid splashed everywhere. I didn't care. I stared at the screen, my brain refusing to process what I was seeing. 0. My savings account. The account I'd spent 3 years building, sacrificing for, planning around, was empty. No, I whispered. No, 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 no. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely navigate to the transaction history. When it loaded, I felt bile rise in my throat. Transfer to checking account. 47,228 Zogarns, May 18th, 11:47 p.m. wire transfer. $47,128, May 18th, 11:53 p.m. May 18th. That was Friday night. The night before the reunion, someone had transferred all my savings to my checking account, then immediately wired it out. Oh my God, I breathed. Oh my God, my first thought was fraud. Someone had hacked my account. I needed to call the bank immediately. Report this. Get my money back. With trembling fingers, I dialed the customer service number. The automated system seemed to take forever. Finally, a human voice answered. First National Bank, this is Gerald speaking. How can I help you today? My account. Someone stole my money. All of it. I need to report fraud. I'm so sorry to hear that, ma'am. Let me pull up your account. Can I have your account number? I rattled it off, my voice breaking. And your full name and date of birth for verification? I provided the information, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. Okay, Ms. Fletcher, I'm looking at your account now. I see the transfers you're referring to. Can you tell me when you noticed this activity? Just now. Just this morning. I logged in and my savings is completely empty. Someone transferred everything out Friday night. I see. And you did not authorize these transfers? No, of course not. I would never. Ms. Fletcher, I need to ask you some questions. Did anyone else have access to your online banking credentials? Your username and password? No, I don't think so. I'm careful about that stuff. Do you use the same password across multiple accounts? No, I trailed off, trying to think. My brain felt like it was moving through mud. I use a password manager. Everything's different? Okay. And have you noticed any suspicious activity on your accounts recently? Any phishing emails or text messages asking for your information? No, nothing like that. All right. Here's what I'm seeing. Ms. Fletcher, the transfer from your savings to checking was initiated through your online banking portal at 11:47 p.m. on May 18th. The IP address matches previous logins from your location. The wire transfer that followed was also initiated through your online portal, using your security credentials. My blood ran cold. What are you saying? I'm saying that according to our system, these transfers were made using your legitimate login information from your typical location, following all proper authentication protocols. But I didn't make them. My voice was rising, panic flooding through me. I was asleep at that time. I understand this is distressing, Ms. Fletcher. We take fraud very seriously. I'm going to open a dispute case for you, and we'll investigate thoroughly. However, I need to be honest with you. When transfers are made using correct credentials and security protocols from a recognized location, these cases can be challenging. Challenging? I felt tears streaming down my face. That's 3 years of my life. That's everything I've worked for. I understand. We'll do everything we can. I'm escalating this to our fraud department. You should receive a call from them within 24 to 48 hours. In the meantime, I'm going to reset all your passwords and security questions. I'm also putting a freeze on any outgoing transfers from your accounts. Where did the money go? I asked desperately. The wire transfer, where did it go? I can see it was wired to an account at... He paused. Mountain West Credit Union. I don't have the account holder's name from this system, but our fraud department will be able to trace that. Mountain West Credit Union. I didn't know anyone who banked there. Or did I? A memory surfaced. Monica mentioning something months ago about Derek having an account there because they offered better rates for his business or something. No, that couldn't be... Ma'am? Are you still there? Yes, I whispered. I'm here. Is there anything else I can help you with right now? No, thank you. Again, I'm very sorry this happened. Someone from fraud will be in touch soon. The line went dead. I sat there on my couch, surrounded by spilled coffee, my laptop screen still showing that devastating 0, and I tried to breathe. Who had access to my information? I lived alone. I didn't share my passwords with anyone. My laptop was password protected. My phone had facial recognition. But then I remembered. The reunion. Last time. The one 6 months ago. I'd gone to my parents' house for Thanksgiving. I'd been checking my bank account on my phone, sitting at the kitchen table, making sure a paycheck had deposited. Monica had been standing behind me looking over my shoulder. Wow, look at you saving all that money, she'd said. Had she seen me type in my password? Could she have watched me? And then there was the time. God, it must have been a year ago, when Monica borrowed my laptop because hers had died and she needed to send an important email. I'd logged her into my guest account, but what if she'd found a way to see my saved passwords? My stomach churned. No, I was being paranoid. Monica was my sister. She wouldn't... But that look she and Derek had exchanged yesterday when I mentioned how much I'd saved. They knew. They already knew, because they'd already taken it. And then they'd sat there, smiled at me, hugged me, ate cake with me, all while knowing what they'd done. I grabbed my phone and pulled up Monica's number. My finger hovered over the call button. What would I even say? Accuse her? What if I was wrong? But what if I was right? I needed to think. I needed to calm down and think rationally. I cleaned up the spilled coffee in a daze, my hands moving on autopilot while my mind raced. I kept coming back to the same impossible conclusion. Monica and Derek had stolen my money. But why? They both worked. Derek made decent money in sales. Monica had a part-time job at a dental office. They weren't wealthy, but they weren't struggling either. Were they? I realized I didn't actually know. I didn't know the details of their finances. Monica had been vague about money stuff for a while now. Whenever I asked about work or their plans, she'd change the subject. By noon, I'd convinced myself I needed to see Monica in person. I needed to look her in the eye and ask her directly. I drove to their house, my heart hammering the entire way. They lived in a nice townhouse community about 20 minutes from my apartment. I'd been there dozens of times for dinners, game nights, birthday celebrations. I'd felt safe there. As I pulled up, I saw both their vehicles in the driveway. Good. They were home. I walked to the front door and knocked. Trying to steady my breathing, Monica answered, her face breaking into a surprised smile. Amber, hey, what are you doing here? She looked so normal, so innocent. Was I really about to accuse my own sister of stealing from me? Can I come in? I asked. I need to talk to you about something. Of course. She stepped aside, and I entered their home. It smelled like vanilla candles and fabric softener. Derek's in the garage working on something. Want me to get him? Actually, I want to talk to you first, alone. Her smile faltered slightly. Okay, that sounds serious. Is everything all right? We sat in her living room. I perched on the edge of their gray couch while she settled into an armchair across from me, her expression concerned. What's going on? She asked softly. I took a deep breath. Someone emptied my savings account Friday night. Her eyes widened. What? Oh my God, Amber. That's terrible. Have you called the bank? Yes. They said the transfer was made using my login information. My correct credentials. So, someone hacked you? Maybe. I watched her face carefully. Or someone who knew my password. A flicker of something crossed her features. Too fast to identify. Who would know your password? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I leaned forward. Monica, have I ever told you my banking passwords? No, of course not. Why would you? She looked genuinely confused. Have you ever seen me log into my account? Maybe watched me type it in. Amber, what are you? She trailed off, and I saw the moment it clicked. The moment she understood what I was implying. Her face went pale. You think I did this? I'm not saying. You think I stole your money? Her voice rose, incredulous, hurt. Monica, I'm just trying to understand. I can't believe this. She stood up abruptly. I'm your sister. How could you even think almost $50,000 is gone? I stood too, my voice breaking. Everything I've worked for. And the bank said it was wired to Mountain West Credit Union. Doesn't Derek bank there? Her face changed then, hardened. Lots of people bank there. Monica. The garage door opened and Derek walked in, wiping his hands on a rag. He stopped when he saw us. Hey, Amber, didn't know you were here. Everything okay? Monica turned to him, her eyes glistening with tears. She thinks we stole her money. Derek's expression shifted. The friendly, charming mask slipped away, replaced by something cold. Something I'd never seen before. Excuse me? My savings account was emptied Friday night, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. Transferred out and wired to Mountain West Credit Union. That's where you bank, isn't it? He stared at me for a long moment. Then slowly, a smile spread across his face. Not friendly. Not warm. Cruel. You know what, Amber? He said, his voice dripping with condescension. We needed it more. The world tilted. What? I whispered. You heard me. He walked closer, and I instinctively stepped back. You've been sitting on all that money, playing it safe, being responsible. He made air quotes with his fingers. Meanwhile, we've been drowning. Derek, Monica started, but he cut her off. No, she deserves to know. She came here accusing us, so let's lay it all out. He turned back to me. We're in debt, deep. Credit cards, medical bills, the business investment that went south. We were about to lose this house. I looked at Monica. Is this true? She wouldn't meet my eyes. Tears streamed down her face. We didn't know what else to do. So you stole from me? My voice broke. You stole everything I had? Borrowed, Derek corrected. We borrowed it. We'll pay you back. You didn't ask. You didn't. How did you even access my account? Monica finally looked at me, guilt written across every feature. Thanksgiving last year, you left your laptop open when you went to the bathroom. I saw your password manager was unlocked. I took a picture of your banking information, just in case. I didn't think I'd ever actually use it, but then everything got so bad, and we were going to lose everything, and you had so much just sitting there. Just sitting there? I felt like I was going to be sick. That was my future. My house, my education! And this is our home, Derek shouted. Our life. What were we supposed to do, let the bank foreclose? End up on the street? You were supposed to ask me, I screamed back. You were supposed to tell me you needed help. I'm your family. Would you have given it to us? Derek challenged. Would you really have just handed over 50 grand? I opened my mouth to say yes, but I hesitated. Would I have? That much money? He saw my hesitation and smirked. Exactly. I need it back, I said firmly. All of it? Now, Derek laughed. Actually laughed. Can't do that. It's already gone. Paid off creditors, caught up the mortgage, handled some other things. Then I'm calling the police. Go ahead, he said, crossing his arms. But here's the thing, Amber. You gave your sister access to your accounts. You shared your password with her. I didn't. Can you prove that? Because from where I'm standing, this looks like a family loan that went bad, he said, she said. And you know what happens in those cases? Nothing. The police won't touch it. They'll tell you it's a civil matter. You planned this, I said. the realization hitting me. That's why you wanted the reunion. That's why you asked about my savings, Monica sobbed. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Amber. Sorry doesn't give me my life back. I turned to leave, but Derek stepped in front of me. Here's how this is going to work, he said quietly, menacingly. You're going to walk out of here and handle this with the bank however you need to. But you're not going to tell Mom and Dad. You're not going to destroy Monica's relationship with them. You're not going to ruin our family. You ruined our family, I spat. He leaned in close. We needed it more than you. You're young. You're single. You'll save again. We were losing everything. So yeah, we took it. And I'm not sorry. I shoved past him and ran to my car. Behind me, I heard Monica calling my name, but I didn't stop. I got in, locked the doors, and drove. I drove and drove, tears blurring my vision, until I had to pull over because I couldn't see. I sat in a random parking lot and sobbed. Gut-wrenching, body-shaking sobs. They'd stolen from me, my own sister, and that smirk on Derek's face. We needed it more. How could they? How could they do this and then sit with me at a family reunion, smiling, laughing, pretending everything was fine? My phone rang. Monica. I declined it. She called again. Finally, I answered. What? Amber, please let me explain. There's nothing to explain, Monica. You stole from me. You and your husband planned it and executed it and then looked me in the eye yesterday like nothing happened. I know, and I hate myself. I've barely slept in 2 days. When you said that number yesterday, I felt sick. But Derek said we had no choice and I was so scared of losing our home. I would have helped you, I shouted. If you'd come to me and been honest, I would have helped you. But you didn't give me that chance. You just took what was mine. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'll pay you back. I promise. Every penny. When? How? With what money? Silence. That's what I thought. I took a shaky breath. I'm reporting this to the police. And I'm telling Mom and Dad. Amber, no, please. Derek said if I told them, he'd... She stopped abruptly. He'd what? My blood ran cold. Monica, what would he do? Nothing. Nothing, forget it. Monica, is he threatening you? I have to go. The line went dead. I sat there, my mind reeling. This was so much bigger than I'd realized. Derek's controlling behavior, Monica's weight loss, her withdrawal, the fear in her voice just now. What had I stumbled into? And more importantly, how was I going to fix this? Because one thing was certain. I wasn't letting them get away with this. That money represented 3 years of my life. My dreams, my future. And I was going to get it back, no matter what it took. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. The thought of being alone in my apartment, surrounded by the life I'd carefully built, the life that had just been shattered, was unbearable. Instead, I drove to my friend Jenna's place across town. Jenna and I had been friends since college. She was a paralegal at a small law firm, practical and level-headed in ways I desperately needed right now. When she opened her door and saw my tear-stained face, she didn't ask questions. She just pulled me inside. Wine or tea? She asked, guiding me to her couch. Something stronger, I managed. She poured us each a generous glass of whiskey. I wasn't usually a hard liquor person, but tonight I needed the burn. Needed something to compete with the fire tearing through my chest. I told her everything. The empty account. The confrontation. Derek's smirk. Monica's terrified voice on the phone. That absolute piece of... Jenna stopped herself, took a breath. Okay, let's think about this logically. First thing tomorrow, you're filing a police report. Derek said the police won't do anything, that it's a civil matter. Derek's a lying scumbag who's trying to scare you into doing nothing, Jenna said firmly. This is theft. Identity theft, actually. She used your credentials without permission. That's a crime. But can I prove I didn't give her permission? Jenna bit her lip. That's going to be the challenge. Family theft cases are tricky. But you have to try. And honestly, Amber, even if the police don't press charges, a police report creates a paper trail. The bank will take your fraud claim more seriously if there's an official report. I nodded, wiping my eyes. What about Monica? That last phone call? Jenna, I think Derek's controlling her, maybe even threatening her. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Classic abuser behavior. Isolate the victim, control the finances, make them dependent. She squeezed my hand. But right now, you need to focus on protecting yourself. I know that sounds harsh. She's my sister. She's your sister who stole $50,000 from you. Jenna's voice was gentle but firm. I know you love her, but she made choices, and you can't help her if you're drowning too. I knew she was right, but knowing didn't make it hurt less. I spent the night on Jenna's couch, barely sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Derek smirk. Heard his voice. We needed it more. Monday morning, I called in sick to work. I couldn't face the normalcy of my job, processing medical bills, chatting with coworkers about their weekends, when my entire world had imploded. Instead, Jenna took a long lunch break and went with me to the police station. The lobby smelled like burnt coffee and industrial cleaner. A tired-looking officer at the front desk took my information and directed me to wait. 45 minutes later, I was sitting across from Detective Sarah Ramirez, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. I explained everything again. Showed her my bank statements, the transaction history, screenshots of my conversations with the bank's fraud department. And your sister admitted to taking the money? Detective Ramirez asked, taking notes. Yes, both she and her husband admitted it. He said, my voice caught. He said they needed it more than me. Her jaw tightened. Did you record this conversation? No, I didn't think to. I was in shock. Understandable. She leaned back in her chair. Here's the situation, Ms. Fletcher. This is definitely theft. The problem is proving it in a way that leads to charges. Your sister had your password, which I didn't give her. She stole it. I believe you, but she'll claim you gave it to her. Without evidence of the actual theft of your credentials, this becomes a he said, she said situation. She held up a hand before I could protest. That doesn't mean we're not taking this seriously. I'm going to open a case. I'll bring your sister and brother-in-law in for questioning. Sometimes when people are confronted by law enforcement, they admit things they wouldn't otherwise. And if they don't, then we look at other avenues. Financial records, digital forensics. I'll be honest with you, these cases can take time. But I want you to know we're taking this seriously. I left the police station feeling marginally better. At least something was being done. But the knot in my stomach remained. Jenna had to get back to work, so I drove aimlessly for a while, trying to figure out my next move. I needed to tell my parents. Derek had demanded I stay silent, but I couldn't. Wouldn't. They deserved to know what their daughter and son-in-law had done. I drove to their house, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Mom answered the door, her face lighting up. Amber, twice in one weekend. What a treat. She stopped, really looking at me. Honey, what's wrong? You look terrible. Is Dad home? Yes, he's in his office. Amber, you're scaring me. Can you get him? I need to talk to both of you. Minutes later, we were all sitting in their living room. The same living room where I'd spent countless Christmases opening presents, where I'd cried after my first breakup, where I'd celebrated my college graduation. Now I was about to shatter their image of their perfect family. Mom, Dad, something happened. Something bad. I watched the color drain from Mom's face as I explained. Dad's expression grew darker with every word. When I finished, silence filled the room like a physical weight. $50,000, Dad said finally, his voice hollow. She stole $50,000 from you. And Derek admitted it. Said they needed it more. That son of a... Dad stood abruptly, started pacing. I'll kill him. I swear to God, Robert, Mom said sharply, but her voice was shaking. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Amber, honey, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, Mom. She's my daughter. I raised her. How could she do this? Mom pressed her hands to her face. I knew something was wrong. I knew they were struggling, but I never thought. They were struggling? I asked. Did Monica tell you that? Not explicitly. But little things. They stopped going out as much. Monica seemed stressed. Derek was always on his phone, dealing with work emergencies. Mom looked at Dad. I should have asked more questions. Dad had stopped pacing and was staring out the window. I'm calling her. Right now. He pulled out his phone. We waited in tense silence as it rang. And rang voicemail. He tried 3 more times. Same result. They're not answering, he said, his voice tight with fury. I filed a police report this morning, I told them. Detective Ramirez said she'd bring them in for questioning. Good, Dad said. And I'm calling my lawyer. We'll sue them in civil court if we have to. They're not getting away with this. Mom was still crying softly. I moved to sit beside her and she pulled me into a fierce hug. We'll fix this, she whispered. I promise you we'll fix this. But even as she said it, I wondered if that was true. Could this be fixed? The money aside, how did we come back from this? How did a family survive this kind of betrayal? That night, back in my own apartment, I finally forced myself to look at my finances realistically. I had $1,247 in checking. My rent was $875, car payment, $220, insurance, phone, utilities, groceries. It didn't take a genius to see I was in trouble. I'd been so focused on saving that I'd kept my checking account relatively low. I lived paycheck to paycheck by choice, moving every extra dollar into savings. Now I had no cushion. No safety net. I'd have to dip into my emergency credit card just to survive until my next paycheck. And I'd recently paid down that credit card using, ironically, savings I'd transferred before Monica and Derek had wiped me out. The crushing weight of it all pressed down on me. 3 years of sacrifice gone in one night. I'd worked overtime, skipped vacations, bought secondhand clothes, meal prepped to save money on groceries. All for nothing. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Please stop. You're tearing this family apart. Just let it go. Monica? She must have gotten a new number or was texting from someone else's phone. I stared at the message, anger bubbling up inside me. I didn't tear anything apart. You and Derek did that when you stole from me. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. We were desperate. You don't understand what it's like to lose everything. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I just lost everything because of you. I do understand. I understand perfectly. Amber, please. Derek is furious that you went to the police. He's saying things. I'm scared. I froze. There it was again. That fear. Scared of what? What is he saying? No response. Monica, answer me. What is Derek threatening? Still nothing. If he's threatening you, you need to tell someone. Mom and Dad, the police, me, anyone. 10 minutes passed. Then, I can't talk about this. Just please drop the charges or whatever you did, please. There are no charges yet. I just filed a report, and I'm not dropping anything. You stole from me. I'll pay you back, I swear. But if you keep pushing this, Derek says he'll make sure you regret it. My blood ran cold. Did he just threaten me? I have to go. And she was gone. Offline. I immediately called Detective Ramirez and left a voicemail about the texts, sent her screenshots. Then I called my parents and told them. That's it, Dad said. We're going over there. Dad, no. If Derek's making threats, then he needs to understand who he's dealing with. I'm not letting him intimidate my daughter. Robert, maybe we should let the police handle it, Mom said in the background. The police are handling it? I'm handling it too. He threatened Amber, Helen, our daughter. I heard muffled arguing, then Dad came back on. Your mother and I will be careful, but we're going to talk to them. They don't get to hide from this. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my apartment, my phone clutched in my hand, and I felt truly afraid for the first time. Not just about the money. About what Derek might do next. The next morning, I dragged myself to work. I couldn't afford another day off, and honestly, I needed the distraction. My coworker, Patricia, took one look at me and whistled low. Rough night? You could say that. Want to talk about it? I shook my head. I wasn't ready to share this with anyone else. The shame of it, being stolen from by my own family, felt too raw. I buried myself in work, processing claims, making calls, trying to lose myself in the routine. But every notification on my phone made me jump. At lunch, I checked my email and found a message from the bank's fraud department. They wanted to schedule a phone interview to discuss my case. I called back immediately and set up a time for the next day. "Just to prepare you," the fraud investigator said, "we've been able to trace where the wire transfer went. It was deposited into an account belonging to Derek Mitchell." "Is that name familiar to you?" "Yes, he's my brother-in-law." "I see. That does complicate things. You're saying you didn't authorize him to access your accounts?" "Absolutely not. But he's married to your sister, correct?" "Yes. And do you have any joint accounts with your sister?" "No, none. Have you ever loaned money to your sister or brother-in-law in the past?" I saw where this was going. They were looking for any pattern that might suggest this was a legitimate family transaction gone wrong. "No, never." "All right. We'll continue investigating. I'll be in touch." The call left me feeling deflated. Everyone kept saying they'd investigate, they'd look into it, they'd get back to me. But would any of it actually result in getting my money back? That evening, my parents called. They'd gone to Monica and Derek's house. "They wouldn't open the door," Dad said, his voice tight with frustration. I could see Derek looking through the window. I told him to be a man and face me, but he just closed the curtain. "We tried Monica's phone again," Mom added. "It's disconnected. Her number isn't working." "She texted me from a different number yesterday," I said. "Derek was making threats through her." "What kind of threats?" Dad demanded. "He said if I kept pushing this, I'd regret it." "That's it. I'm calling the police." "That's a direct threat." "I already reported it to the detective handling my case." "Good, but I'm calling too. They need to know this man is dangerous." After we hung up, I realized how much this was affecting my parents. Mom sounded like she'd been crying for days. Dad's voice had that edge of helplessness he hated, the inability to fix something for his children. This wasn't just destroying my life. It was destroying all of us. Wednesday brought a new development. Detective Ramirez called me at work. "Ms. Fletcher, I brought your sister and brother-in-law in for questioning yesterday." My heart leaped. "And?" "Your brother-in-law lawyered up immediately. Wouldn't answer questions. Your sister, however, was more forthcoming." "What did she say?" "She admitted to accessing your bank account. She said she'd seen your password manager open on your computer during a family gathering and wrote down the information. She claimed it was just in case of an emergency. Did she admit to stealing the money?" "She said she borrowed it, that she intended to pay you back and that you would have agreed to help if she'd asked." "That's not borrowing. That's stealing." "I agree with you, Ms. Fletcher. However, she's also claiming that you'd given her permission to access your accounts in the past." "That's a lie." "I figured as much. Unfortunately, without documentation proving otherwise, it becomes difficult. But here's the important part. I pushed her on why they needed the money so urgently. She broke down, started talking about debt, about Derek's failed business investments, about how he'd been borrowing from dangerous people to keep them afloat. I went still. "Dangerous people?" She wouldn't elaborate. Got scared and clammed up. But I got the impression we're talking about loan sharks or similar, people you don't want to owe money to. So they stole my money to pay off criminals? Possibly. I'm going to keep digging. But Miss Fletcher, I need you to be careful. If Derek is involved with dangerous people, and he feels cornered by this investigation, there's no telling what he might do. After that call, I couldn't focus on work. I kept thinking about Monica's frightened texts. Derek's threats. The pieces were coming together, painting a picture that was so much worse than I'd imagined. Derek hadn't just stolen from me on a whim. He was in deep with bad people, and he'd sacrificed me to save himself. Thursday night, I was making dinner, ramen, because that's what my budget now allowed, when someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and my stomach dropped. Derek. He was alone, standing in the hallway, looking directly at the peephole like he knew I was watching. Opened the door. "Amber, we need to talk." My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. keeping the line open but muted. "I'm not opening the door," I called through it. "Leave or I'm calling the police. I just want to talk." 5 minutes. "That's all I'm asking. You threatened me. You stole from me. I'm not opening this door." "Jesus Christ, Amber, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm here to apologize." Apologize through the door. Silence. Then, "Fine. You want to do this the hard way? Let me tell you what's going to happen. That detective? She's got nothing. No evidence that would hold up in court. And my lawyer says what Monica did was, at worst, a misdemeanor. She'll probably get probation. Meanwhile, you've destroyed your relationship with your sister, torn apart your family, and for what? You're still not getting your money back. We'll see what a civil court says." He laughed, dark and bitter. "Go ahead, sue us. You'll win a judgment we'll never be able to pay. We'll declare bankruptcy. You'll get pennies on the dollar, maybe, after years of court battles. Is that really what you want?" "What I want is my money back." "It's gone. Amber. Used up. Spent. Done. But here's what I can offer you. Drop everything. The police report, any civil action you're planning, and I'll set up a payment plan. $200 a month. It'll take a while, but you'll get it all back eventually. $200 a month. It would take over 19 years to repay what they'd stolen. That's not good enough. It's the best you're going to get." His voice rose, frustrated. "You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to steal from my wife's sister? I was desperate. There were men." He stopped abruptly. "What men?" I asked. "The loan sharks Detective Ramirez mentioned?" Another pause. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. "Dangerous. Stay out of things you don't understand. You made it my business when you stole my money to pay them off. I protected my family. That's what you do when you're married, when you have responsibilities. Something you wouldn't understand." The jab stung. But I refused to let him see it affect me. "Leave, Derek. Now. Or I'm telling the 911 operator I've been keeping on the line that you're harassing me." I heard a sharp intake of breath. "You're recording this?" "Every word." "You bitch. Goodbye, Derek." I heard footsteps retreating, then the stairwell door slam. I waited 5 minutes before canceling the 911 call and immediately phoning Detective Ramirez to report the encounter. "I'm sending an officer to take a statement," she said. "And Miss Fletcher? You did the right thing not opening that door." That night I couldn't sleep. Every sound in my apartment building made me jump. Every car door, every footstep in the hallway. Derek knew where I lived. He'd come here once. What was to stop him from coming back? I dragged my dresser in front of my door and kept my phone clutched in my hand all night. By Friday morning, I was exhausted, paranoid, and running on empty in every sense of the word. I got a call from my father. "Amber, your mother and I have been talking. We want to help you with money. We can't replace everything, but we can—" "No, Dad. Honey, please. We know you're struggling. Let us help. This isn't your responsibility. You shouldn't have to pay for what Monica and Derek did. You're our daughter. We love you. Please let us do this." I started crying. I'd been holding it together, trying to be strong, but the genuine concern in my father's voice broke something open. "I don't want you to have to sacrifice your retirement. We're not. We have savings for emergencies. This is an emergency." In the end, I accepted. $5,000. Not even close to what I'd lost, but enough to keep me afloat for a few months while everything got sorted out. "We're also consulting with a lawyer," Dad said, "about suing them in civil court and possibly pursuing guardianship proceedings." Guardianship? For Monica. If Derek's abusing her, controlling her, we might be able to get a court to intervene, especially if she's being coerced into criminal activity. I hadn't thought of that angle. Do you think that would work? I don't know, but we have to try. She's our daughter too, Amber. And even though what she did was unforgivable, I can't help but think Derek manipulated her into this. I wanted to believe that. Wanted to believe my sister was just a victim in all this too. But she'd had choices. She'd made decisions. And one of those decisions was to betray me in the worst possible way. The weekend passed in a blur of anxiety and phone calls. The bank's fraud department wanted more information. Detective Ramirez had more questions. My lawyer, Dad's lawyer, technically, but now representing me too, needed documents. I felt like I was drowning in paperwork while simultaneously drowning in paranoia every time I left my apartment. Monday brought news. I wasn't expecting Detective Ramirez called. Ms. Fletcher, we have a development. Derek Mitchell was arrested last night. My heart stopped. For stealing from me? No, for assault. Apparently, he got into an altercation at a bar. The other man involved filed charges. But here's where it gets interesting. When we ran Derek's information, we found he has outstanding warrants in another state. Fraud charges from 3 years ago. What? It seems your brother-in-law has a history. And it's worse than we thought. I'm still gathering information, but it looks like he's done this before. Multiple times. Identity theft, fraud, embezzlement from a previous employer. I felt like the ground had dropped out from under me. Does Monica know? I don't know, but I intend to find out. Ms. Fletcher, I think your sister may have married a career criminal. After we hung up, I immediately called my parents. Mom answered, and I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. We know, she said before I could speak. Detective Ramirez called us too. We're going to try to see Monica. If Derek's in jail, maybe she'll actually talk to us. Mom, be careful. We don't know. I'm her mother, Amber. I have to try. That evening, my phone rang. Monica's old number, the one that had been disconnected, I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Hello? Amber! Monica's voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Where are you? At Mom and Dad's. They came and got me. Derek's in jail and I didn't know where else to go. Part of me wanted to hang up, to let her suffer alone the way she'd made me suffer. But I heard the brokenness in her voice, and despite everything, she was still my sister. What happened, Monica? The truth this time. And finally, she told me everything. Derek's gambling addiction, the debt that had spiraled out of control, the loan sharks who'd threatened to hurt her if he didn't pay, the way he'd slowly isolated her from friends and family, controlled every aspect of their finances, made her feel like she had no choice but to help him. He said if I didn't get money somehow, they'd kill us both, she sobbed. He said you had so much saved and you were single and didn't need it as badly. He convinced me it was the only way. And I was so scared, Amber. I was so scared I did it. And I hate myself. I hate myself so much. I listened to her fall apart, and I didn't know what to feel. Anger, pity, betrayal, sympathy. It was all tangled up inside me like barbed wire. You should have told me, I said finally. You should have asked for help. I know. I know that now. But Derek had me so twisted around I couldn't think straight. I thought I was protecting us. She trailed off. I thought I was being a good wife, standing by him no matter what. But all I did was help him hurt someone I love. Do you know about his past? The fraud charges? Not until today. The detective told me. I didn't know any of it. He lied about everything, Amber. Everything. We talked for over an hour. She told me about the psychological abuse, the control, the fear that had become her constant companion. She told me she wanted to help make this right, that she'd testify against him, do whatever it took. But talk was cheap. And trust, once broken, wasn't easily repaired. I need time, I told her. I need space to figure out how I feel about all this. I understand. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I can forgive myself. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my apartment and felt empty. Not relieved. Not vindicated. Just empty. Because here's the thing about betrayal. Even when you get answers, even when you understand the why, it doesn't undo the damage. It doesn't give you back what was taken. My money was still gone. My trust was still shattered. My future was still uncertain. And as I sat there in the dark, I realized this was just the beginning. The investigation was ongoing. The civil suit was being prepared. Derek was facing multiple charges, but the real question remained. Could I ever get my life back? Could any of us? The weeks following Derek's arrest felt like living in a fog. I went through the motions, work, home, sleep, repeat, but nothing felt real. Nothing felt safe. Detective Ramirez called me regularly with updates. Derek had been denied bail due to the outstanding warrants and flight risk concerns. Monica had moved back in with our parents temporarily. The investigation into the theft of my money was building a stronger case now that Monica was cooperating. She's given us everything, Detective Ramirez told me during one call. Bank records, text messages, even recordings she secretly made of Derek threatening her. Your sister was more terrified than we realized. Does that excuse what she did? I asked, my voice flat. No, but it provides context. The DA is considering reduced charges for Monica if she continues to cooperate fully against Derek. She's looking at probation, restitution, and mandated counseling instead of jail time. Restitution. That word kept coming up. But restitution from people with no money was just a promise on paper. My lawyer, Patricia Chen, a sharp woman in her 50s who Dad's friend had recommended, was more direct about my prospects. We'll win the civil suit, she told me over coffee at her office. No question. But winning and collecting are two different things. Derek and Monica have negative net worth. Their house is underwater. They owe more than it's worth. They have no significant assets. Even if we garnish wages, it'll take decades to recover your full loss. So I'm just screwed? Not necessarily. Derek's criminal history opens other doors. We've discovered he defrauded his previous employer of nearly $80,000. There may be other victims. If we can find them and build a class action case, or if the state pursues serious criminal charges that lead to asset forfeiture from any hidden money, you might see more recovery. Might, I repeated bitterly. I know it's not what you want to hear, but I'd rather be honest with you than give you false hope. I appreciated her honesty, even if it felt like another gut punch. My parents were struggling with their own guilt and grief. Mom had lost weight, her face drawn and pale. Dad had thrown himself into helping me build the legal case, spending hours organizing documents and making calls. We failed her, Mom said one evening when I stopped by their house. We were sitting in the kitchen, the same kitchen where we'd had countless family dinners. We failed Monica. If we'd paid more attention, if we'd asked the right questions, Mom, this isn't your fault. She's my daughter. How did I not see she was being abused? How did I not see she'd married a monster? I didn't have an answer. I was asking myself similar questions. How had I not seen Derek for what he was? How had we all been fooled? Abusers are good at hiding, I said finally. They're good at making everything look perfect on the surface. I keep replaying moments, Mom continued, tears streaming down her face. Times when Monica seemed off, or Derek said something that seemed controlling, and I just brushed it aside. Told myself I was reading too much into it. Dad walked in, saw us both crying, and wrapped us both in his arms. We stood there, three people bound by love and broken by betrayal, trying to hold each other together. Monica and I hadn't spoken directly since that phone call. She'd texted a few times, always apologizing, always saying she understood if I never forgave her. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready. But 3 weeks after Derek's arrest, she showed up at my apartment. I looked through the peephole and saw her standing there, looking small and fragile in an oversized sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and even through the distorted glass, I could see she'd been crying. Every instinct told me not to open the door. To protect myself. To maintain the boundaries I desperately needed to build, but she was my sister. And despite everything, some part of me still loved her. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. Hi, she said softly. Hi. Can we talk? Please? I hesitated, then stepped aside. She entered slowly, like she was afraid of spooking me. We sat in my living room, the same living room where I'd discovered my empty bank account what felt like a lifetime ago. I know you probably hate me, Monica started, her hands twisting in her lap. I know I destroyed everything between us. But I need you to understand. I need you to know the whole story. I know the story. Derek manipulated you. He threatened you. He turned you into an accomplice. It's more than that. She looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. Amber, I've been in therapy, intensive therapy since moving back with Mom and Dad. And I'm starting to see how deep this all went, how much of myself I lost. She told me about the early days of her marriage to Derek, how charming he'd been at first, how slowly, incrementally, things had changed. The way he'd started criticizing her friends until she stopped seeing them. The way he'd taken over their finances to reduce her stress. The way he'd tracked her phone, her movements, her conversations. I didn't even realize it was happening, she said. He framed everything as love, as protection. By the time I understood I was trapped, I didn't know how to get out. When did the gambling start? About 2 years into our marriage. He hid it well at first. But eventually, the debt became impossible to hide. We started getting calls from creditors. Then worse, visits from men I didn't know. Men who scared me. She described coming home one day to find 2 men in their house, sitting on their couch like they owned the place. Derek owed them $30,000. They gave him 2 weeks to pay it, or there would be consequences. Derek spiraled after that. He took out more loans to pay those guys, which just created more debt with other people. It was like watching someone drown and being unable to do anything but drown alongside them. That's when he decided to steal from me. She flinched at the word steal, but nodded. He'd already used up our credit cards, drained our savings, borrowed from his parents until they cut him off. He said we had one option left. He'd noticed how much you'd saved. He said you were single, no kids, no major responsibilities. He convinced me that you wouldn't really miss it. That we could borrow it, pay it back before you even noticed. Borrow. You keep using that word. I know it was theft. But he had me so confused, Amber. He'd spent years breaking down my ability to think clearly, to trust my own judgment. When he said we needed to do this to survive, I believed him. When he said you'd understand eventually, I believed that too. Did you ever think about what it would do to me? My voice cracked. Did you ever think about how I'd feel? Every second. Tears poured down her face. Every single second. When I saw you at the reunion, smiling, happy, talking about your savings, I felt sick. I couldn't eat that night. I couldn't sleep. But Derek said if I backed out, if I told you the men he owed money to would hurt me, maybe hurt you. Hurt Mom and Dad. Were those real threats? Or was that Derek manipulating you? I don't know anymore. My therapist thinks he exaggerated the danger to control me. But some of it was real. Those men were real. The fear was real. We sat in silence for a moment. I wanted to hate her. Part of me did. But another part saw the broken woman in front of me and recognized that she was a victim too, just not the only victim. I'm testifying against him, Monica said. Everything. The abuse, the threats, the fraud. My lawyer says it'll help my case, but I'd do it anyway. He needs to be stopped. He's done this to other people, Amber, other women. I found out he was married before me. Did you know that? I shook my head. Her name is Rachel. I found her on Facebook and messaged her. She told me Derek did almost the same thing to her. Isolated her, controlled her, ran up debt, and then tried to convince her to steal from her family to pay it off. But she refused and left him. He served 6 months in jail for the fraud charges, and by the time he got out, she disappeared. Changed her name, moved across the country. My blood ran cold. He's done this before. This is his pattern. Yes. And I was too blind to see it. Too desperate to believe I'd found someone who loved me. She wiped her eyes. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I'm doing everything I can to make this right. I got a second job. Every penny I make beyond basic survival goes into a restitution account for you. How much have you saved? $800, $800. Out of $47,000. It's nothing, she said, reading my expression. I know it's nothing, but it's all I have right now. And I'll keep working, keep saving, for as long as it takes. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to throw her out, tell her that money meant nothing without trust. But another part recognized the genuine remorse, the real effort to change. I need time, I finally said. I can't just forgive you because you're sorry. I can't just move past this because you had reasons. I know. But I don't hate you. I want to. It would be easier if I did. But you're my sister, and somewhere under all this pain, I still love you. I just don't trust you, and I don't know if I ever will again. That's fair, she whispered. That's more than fair. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. Amber, thank you for not giving up on me completely. A lot of people would have. After she left, I sat in the quiet of my apartment and cried. Not angry tears this time. Just sad ones. Grieving for the relationship we'd had, the sister I'd trusted, the family dynamic that would never be the same. The criminal case against Derek moved forward rapidly. The DA's office was building a comprehensive case that included my theft, his previous fraud convictions, the threats he'd made, and evidence of other potential victims. Detective Ramirez called me one afternoon with unexpected news. We found money, she said. Hidden accounts. Derek had been siphoning cash into offshore accounts under false names for years. We're working with federal authorities to freeze and seize those assets. My heart leaped. How much? Still determining the exact amount, but preliminary estimates suggest over $200,000. $200,000? I couldn't breathe. He had that much and still stole from me? Greed and addiction don't follow logic, Miss Fletcher. The gambling consumed everything he could access easily. The hidden accounts were his escape plan. Money to disappear with if everything fell apart. Can I get my money back from those accounts? If we can successfully seize them, and if the court orders restitution, yes. You'd be first in line as a victim. But I need to warn you, these things take time. Offshore accounts are complicated. We're talking months, possibly years of legal proceedings. It was something, though. More than I'd had before. Actual hope of real recovery. Derek's trial was set for 6 months out, but there were preliminary hearings and motions in the meantime. I attended several, sitting in the courtroom and watching the man who'd destroyed my financial security squirm under legal pressure. He looked different now. Thinner. Harder. The charming smile was gone, replaced by a permanent scowl. When his eyes met mine across the courtroom, there was nothing but cold hatred there. Monica attended too, sitting with the prosecution. Derek glared at her with such venom that a bailiff had to step between their sightlines. During one hearing, Derek's lawyer argued for reduced charges, claiming Monica had been an equal participant in the theft. The prosecution shut that down quickly with evidence of Derek's abuse and control. Mr. Mitchell systematically isolated and terrorized his wife, the prosecutor stated firmly. He threatened her family, tracked her movements, and coerced her into criminal activity through fear and manipulation. Mrs. Mitchell is a victim and a witness, not a co-conspirator. Derek exploded. She's lying. She wanted that money as much as I did. His lawyer tried to quiet him, but Derek kept yelling until the judge threatened contempt charges. As he was led out of the courtroom, still shouting, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't the smooth-talking charmer who'd joined our family. This was a desperate, angry man whose mask had finally fallen away completely, and Monica had lived with this person. Had been married to him, had been trapped with him. My anger toward her softened slightly. Not gone. I didn't know if it would ever be fully gone, but softened. My financial situation slowly stabilized. My parents' loan helped. I picked up overtime at work whenever possible. I started a side gig doing medical billing freelance in the evenings. It was exhausting, working 12-hour days, but I was rebuilding. Jenna helped me create a strict budget. You did this once, she reminded me. You can do it again. It just sucks that you have to. The bank eventually closed their fraud investigation with a finding in my favor, but they could only recover $3,200, the maximum their insurance would cover for this type of internal fraud. It was something. Not enough, but something. I deposited that money into a new savings account at a different bank with new passwords, two-factor authentication, and security protocols that would have made Fort Knox jealous. Slowly, painfully, my savings number started climbing again. $500, $1,000. $2,000, every dollar felt like a small victory and a reminder of what I'd lost. 5 months after that devastating discovery, I sat in a different courtroom for Derek's sentencing hearing. He'd taken a plea deal, 15 years for fraud, theft, money laundering, and several other charges. With good behavior, he'd serve at least 10. The judge asked if any victims wanted to make statements. I stood. My hands shook as I read from the paper I'd prepared. Derek Mitchell stole more than money from me. He stole 3 years of sacrifice, of careful planning, of dreams for my future. He stole my sense of security and my ability to trust. He stole peaceful nights of sleep and the joy of family gatherings. He turned my sister into a criminal and my parents into grief-stricken shadows of themselves. I looked up, meeting his eyes. He stared back, defiant, but he didn't break me. I'm rebuilding. I'm surviving. And I want him to know that while he sits in prison, I'll be out here living my life, working toward my goals, and eventually, healing from what he did. I sat down, my heart pounding. Monica was next. She approached the stand, her voice barely audible. I want to say I'm sorry. To Amber, to my parents, to everyone Derek hurt. I take responsibility for my part in this. I made terrible choices, even if I was scared. I should have been stronger. I should have protected my sister instead of betraying her. She turned to Derek. And I want you to know that I'm filing for divorce. I'm taking back my life. I'm not your victim anymore. Derek's face contorted with rage, but he stayed silent. The judge delivered the sentence. 15 years for Derek. 3 years probation for Monica with mandatory restitution, community service, and continued therapy. As Derek was led away, he looked back one more time, not at Monica, not at his lawyer, at me, and I stared back, refusing to look away, refusing to give him the satisfaction of seeing fear in my eyes. Then he was gone. The months that followed were about rebuilding in every sense. I continued therapy, something I'd started after the theft to process the trauma and betrayal. It helped, slowly, to untangle the complicated emotions around Monica, around family, around trust. Monica and I started having supervised conversations, short coffee meetings with our therapist present. Small steps toward something that might eventually resemble reconciliation. I didn't know if we'd ever be truly close again, but I was willing to try. She kept her promise, paying into the restitution account every month. The amounts were small, $200, $300 when she could manage it, but consistent. She was working 2 jobs, living in a tiny apartment, and dedicating every spare penny to paying me back. It would take years, maybe decades, but she was trying. The federal investigation into Derek's offshore accounts concluded after 8 months. They'd successfully frozen $187,000 across 3 accounts. After legal fees and other victim restitution, I was awarded $94,000. When that money hit my account, I sat staring at my phone screen and cried. Not tears of joy exactly, more like relief, release. The crushing weight I'd been carrying for almost a year finally lightened. It wasn't everything I'd lost. But it was enough to move forward. 1 year after the theft, I met with Patricia Chen to discuss closing out the civil case. With the criminal restitution and Monica's payments, you've recovered about 68% of your original loss, she told me. The court is still requiring Monica to continue payments until the full amount is satisfied, but realistically, that could take another 10 to 15 years. I know. There's also Derek's potential earnings if he gets released and finds work. Those could be garnished. That's a long time from now. It is. She studied me. How are you doing, Amber? Really, I thought about it. Better than I was. Worse than I should be, but moving forward. Actually, I enrolled in nursing school. Her face lit up. That's wonderful. Part-time online. It'll take longer this way, but I can keep working. I'm using some of the recovered money for tuition. It feels like taking back control of my future, you know? I do know. And I'm proud of you. A lot of people would have given up. I thought about it, I admitted. In those first few weeks, I thought about just giving up. On the money, on my goals, on everything. But then I realized that's what Derek would have wanted. For me to stay broken, and you refused to give him that satisfaction. Exactly. The family dynamics shifted in unexpected ways. My parents, consumed by guilt over Monica, became almost overprotective of me. I had to gently establish boundaries, remind them I was an adult who could take care of herself. Ryan, my younger brother, who'd been largely on the periphery of everything, surprised me by becoming one of my strongest supporters. He helped me move to a safer apartment in a better neighborhood. He taught me about cybersecurity after everything that happened. He checked in regularly, never pushy, just present. "You're the tough one," he told me once. I always knew that, but this proved it. Monica and I reached a fragile new normal. We weren't what we'd been, sisters who shared everything, who trusted implicitly. But we were something. We had lunch once a month. She updated me on her therapy progress. I told her about nursing school. We were rebuilding from rubble, and neither of us knew what the final structure would look like. But we were trying. 18 months after the theft, I did something I never thought I'd do again. I looked at houses. My credit had taken a hit from everything that happened, and my savings weren't as robust as they'd been before. But they were growing, and I was tired of feeling like my life was on hold. The house I found was smaller than I'd originally dreamed of, a modest 2-bedroom ranch that needed some work. But it had good bones, a little yard, and it was mine. When I closed on it, my parents threw a small celebration. Monica came, bringing a housewarming gift, a framed photo of the two of us as kids, laughing in our backyard sprinkler. "I found this at Mom's house," she said softly. I thought maybe you'd want to remember when things were simpler." I took the frame, looking at our younger selves. Happy, innocent, before life got complicated. "Thank you," I said. And I meant it. We weren't those kids anymore. We never would be again. But maybe that was okay. Maybe we could be something new. Something forged through fire and failure, and eventually, forgiveness. Or at least something close to it. 2 years after my account was emptied, I received a letter from Derek in prison. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity won. The letter was short. "Amber, I'm not writing to apologize. I'm not sorry for trying to survive. But I am sorry that it came at your expense. You didn't deserve to be collateral damage in my war. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that you were right. I didn't break you. And that pisses me off more than the prison sentence. You're stronger than I gave you credit for." Derek, I read it 3 times, then burned it in my fireplace. He wanted to get in my head one last time. Wanted to be remembered, even in anger. I refused to give him that power. 3 years after the theft, I graduated from nursing school. The ceremony felt surreal, walking across the stage, accepting my degree, seeing my parents and Ryan cheering in the audience. Monica was there too, standing in the back clapping and crying. After the ceremony, she approached me hesitantly. "Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for coming. I wouldn't have missed it." She paused. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said once, about how I should have asked for help instead of stealing. And you were right. About everything. Monica, no, let me finish. I'll never be able to fully make up for what I did. I know that. But I want you to know that watching you rebuild, watching you refuse to let what happened define you, it's inspired me. I'm going back to school too, for counseling. I want to help other women recognize the signs of abuse that I missed." I looked at my sister, really looked at her. She'd gained healthy weight back. Her eyes were clearer. She looked like herself again. Like the sister I'd grown up with, but with harder-earned wisdom in her expression. "That's really great, Monica. We'll never be what we were," she said, echoing my own thoughts from months earlier. "But maybe we can be something new?" I thought about it. Thought about the long road we'd traveled. The pain, the anger, the slow, painful healing. "Yeah," I said finally. "Maybe we can." We didn't hug. weren't ready for that yet. But we smiled at each other, and it felt real. 5 years after the theft, I was working as a registered nurse at a children's hospital. I'd paid off my student loans. My savings account had surpassed my original $47,000 goal. I'd even started dating someone, a good man, patient and kind, who knew my story and didn't run away. Monica had finished her degree and was working at a women's shelter, helping domestic violence survivors. She'd paid back about $18,000 of what she owed me, faithfully, every month without fail. Derek was still in prison and would be for years to come. My parents had aged. The stress of everything had taken its toll. But they were healing too, learning to forgive themselves for things that weren't their fault. Ryan had gotten engaged to a wonderful woman who fit into our complicated family beautifully. We had family dinners again. Carefully at first, then with growing ease. The elephant was still in the room. It would always be there, in some ways. But we'd learned to live with it. One evening, sitting on the porch of my little house, watching the sunset, I thought about how far I'd come. How much I'd lost and how much I'd rebuilt. The theft had changed me. There was no denying that. I was more cautious now, more guarded. I verified everything twice, trusted less easily, kept closer watch on my accounts. But I was also stronger, more resilient. I'd learned I could survive the unthinkable and come out the other side. My phone buzzed with a text from Monica. "Thank you for not giving up on me." On us. I know I didn't deserve it. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "We're family." That's what family does, even when it's hard, and I meant it, despite everything, the betrayal, the pain, the long road to recovery. Family meant something. Not blind trust anymore. Not unconditional acceptance of behavior, but connection, history, the possibility of redemption. I set my phone down and watched the sun sink below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Tomorrow I'd go to work. I'd continue building my savings. I'd have dinner with my boyfriend and make plans for the future. I'd keep living, keep growing, keep healing, because that's what survivors do. Derek had stolen my money, my security, my peace of mind. But he hadn't stolen me. He hadn't destroyed the fundamental person I was. I was still here, still standing, still fighting for the life I wanted, and that was the greatest victory of all. 7 years after everything began, I received one final letter. Not from Derek this time, but from the Department of Corrections. Derek Mitchell had died in prison. A heart attack. He was only 42. I felt nothing. Not relief. Not satisfaction. Just a kind of empty closure. Monica called me, crying. Despite everything, he'd been her husband. Part of her history. It's okay to grieve, I told her. Even for people who hurt us. "I don't know what I'm feeling," she admitted. "That's okay too." We talked for an hour. About the past, the present, the future. About forgiveness and healing and the messy, complicated nature of family. When we hung up, I looked at the photo she'd given me years ago. The two of us as kids, laughing in the sprinkler. We'd come full circle in a way. Not back to that innocence. We could never go back. But forward to something new. Something harder earned, but maybe more real. I placed the photo on my mantle, next to pictures from my nursing school graduation, from family dinners, from my life as I'd rebuilt it. Then I sat down at my laptop and pulled up my bank account. Savings account, $73,482.19. I smiled. I'd done it. Surpassed my original goal, rebuilt what was taken, and created something even better. The number wasn't just money anymore. It was proof. Proof that I could survive anything. Proof that I was stronger than the people who tried to break me. Proof that I could not just rebuild, but thrive. And as I closed my laptop and got ready for bed, I realized something important. I'd finally let go. Let go of the anger, the bitterness, the constant replay of what had been stolen. I'd taken back my power, my peace, my future, and nothing and no one could steal that from me again. Thank you for following Amber's journey. If this story touched you, please like, subscribe, and share your own stories of survival and recovery in the comments. Remember, betrayal can break you down, but it doesn't have to break who you are. You're stronger than you know.